Well, that's exactly what has happened. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have given their communications team the boot, blaming them for a series of recent PR humiliations.
Shed a tear for poor Meghan Markle. There the delighted Duchess was, all set to steal the King's limelight, and then, suddenly, dramatically, she was stripped of the chance. Damn!
We want privacy! We want privacy!
Whatever the hell that means, perhaps she'll take solace in her own expanding opportunities.
She is a malignant narcissist.
Get a job, Meghan. Fake it till you make it. Harry and Meghan are their own worst enemies.
Not with scandal, not with leaked photos, not even with royal gossip, but with jokes. When South Park aired a savage parody of Meghan and Harry, most viewers laughed. But behind closed doors, it triggered what insiders now call the Montecito meltdown. A full-scale PR collapse that left Meghan's team scrambling, staff fleeing, and sponsors silently backing away. What happened next wasn't damage control, it was identity crisis.
Babe, time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post for Del Taco.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
That's right. Nothing says that you're impossible to work for a bit of a ball ache and an axe grinder than constantly cycling through various members of staff like hot dinners.
It didn't start with a headline. It started with a leak. And what followed wasn't just a PR issue, it felt like war behind the gates of Montecito. The morning it aired, Archewell HQ was quiet. Too quiet. No alerts. No statements. Just confused silence until Meghan saw the clip.
It has been several months now since our beloved Queen has died. Our Canadians are finding it hard to go on. All Canadians, that is, except for our first guest, the Prince and his wife.
And after the comedy of errors that was American Riviera Orchard and the ongoing chaos of Manic Meg's scam jam car crash as ever, perhaps caution is called for here.
The South Park episode wasn't just satire. It was surgical, mocking her and Harry as fame-hungry, privacy-demanding hypocrites, complete with fake memoirs and stage talk shows. The real problem? It landed. The internet wasn't criticizing anymore, it was laughing. And for Meghan, that was worse.
I feel like the focus is starting to shift off of me. Maybe in editing you'll fix it.
I thought we were moving forward, Meghan. Well, we're not.
So it seems to me they're resorting to becoming basically a version of the royal Kardashians. We can't wait for it.
Behind her team's polished smiles, a crisis erupted. A rapid-fire strategy meeting was called. Phones buzzed. NDAs were enforced. Media advisors flew in from New York. Because the question wasn't just, how do we respond? It was, can we even fight back against a joke?
That's fine, I'll go it alone. Just like Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
It's that mocking, mimicking, disrespectful way that she does everything in her life.
Satire usually rolls off celebrities like rain on glass. But this time, it shattered something. Unlike the tabloids, South Park didn't need evidence. It needed exaggeration, and it delivered. The cartoon version of Meghan screeched about privacy while cashing in on every media deal. It mirrored real events so closely that viewers couldn't tell where the joke stopped and reality began.
Went online to see what was new with Uncle Harry and Auntie Meghan, and I couldn't find a thing. I would have thought she'd have at least popped up in a tampon commercial by now.
Uncharacteristically for a self-styled entrepreneur who specializes in copying everyone else, the hotel thing is a relatively fresh idea. But take a tip from me, your ladyship. Don't do it.
Behind the scenes, Meghan's inner circle was stunned. She wasn't just the target. Her entire narrative was collapsing. The carefully crafted image of a misunderstood duchess was now the punchline of a late-night meme. Insiders claim Meghan felt personally attacked, humiliated in front of the world. And worse, her team realized something terrifying. You can't sue satire. You can't silence parody. And you definitely can't control what goes viral.
And everyone does reality TV now, so don't worry about this being a step down for me because it's not.
I wasn't until you just said it.
Plus, it's a really good platform to promote my brand.
What is your brand?
Oh, I don't know. I'll think of some piece of crap.
I don't know, launch a Grenfell cookbook, make a podcast, have a series on Netflix, set up a charity. None of that stuff has worked. They've been damn hopeless at everything.
Inside Archewell, something eerie began to unfold. Not just damage control, but a full-blown digital blackout. Within hours, Archewell's systems went dark. Comms froze. Scheduled posts were pulled. Internal folders were deleted, with one labeled public-facing, allegedly wiped without backup. Staff described a chilling silence. Some were locked out of their accounts. Others received cold, vague emails about communications realignment.
The question is for Meghan. Meghan, besides holder of briefcase 24 on Deal or No Deal, what do you think your most impactful role was?
She's so out of touch. She's so missed the mark, Markle.
It didn't feel like a strategy. It felt like a retreat. One team member compared it to watching a ship sink in real time and realizing there's no lifeboat. For the first time, Meghan's media machine had nothing to say, and silence was its own kind of confession.
You never had a dream when you were a child to be something everyone else said was impossible? Like an astronaut, or prime minister, or masseur?
I wanted to be a princess.
Oh, well, you kind of fucked that up.
Prince Harry, though, has become the punchline of a Saturday Night Live joke. Let's have a look.
NBC has announced plans for a spin-off to the hit series Suits, which will be set in Los Angeles. It will focus on Meghan Markle's character's struggle to balance her legal career while also caring for an unemployed immigrant.
If Meghan's team was trying to kill the fire, they forgot one thing. You can't smother a meme with silence. The silence made it worse. The internet took it personally. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, everyone had an opinion. Even those who didn't watch South Park started sharing the clips. Memes exploded. Reaction videos hit millions of views. A fake video showing Meghan storming out of a meeting racked up 500,000 likes, and it wasn't even real. But none of that mattered.
Lisa Rinna! So nice to see you again!
We've never met.
Oh, why do I feel like I know you?
Well, I've been on TV for 50 years, so maybe it's that.
Well, you know, this is after we were informed that they were hiring this team of 11 and that they were going to try to almost have their own little royal court and craft things.
In the digital world, perception is reality. And the perception was simple. Meghan couldn't take a joke. Rumors swirled that lawyers were preparing a cease and desist. But legal experts immediately shot it down. You can't sue over parody. And attempting to only fuels the fire. For Meghan, the rules of the game had changed. And she wasn't the one writing them anymore.
We are screwed.
Wait, what about your ketchup company?
That was a dumb idea.
Then what are we going to do? Can you get another show? I mean, not one that you act on, darling. I know people don't want to hire you for that anymore, but...
Well, HGTV did call my agents last week about us, but at the time I thought we were too good for them.
I don't think Meghan likes interviewing people. I think she'd prefer to talk about herself.
What do you do when the storm's inside the house? Meghan's crisis turned inward, and the brand began turning on itself. When the outside world turns on you, there's usually somewhere to hide. But what happens when the backlash starts inside your own walls? That's exactly what sources claim happened behind closed doors at Archewell, the media company Harry and Meghan founded to build their empire, control their narrative, and craft their future. Instead, it became the scene of what insiders now call a controlled collapse.
A chain of Meg-ins would be astronomical. The wildly ambitious Ms. Markle has got everything to lose. And if she decides to become Celebrity Land's answer to the Hilton, lose everything.
Multiple reports say internal operations came to a halt just days after the South Park episode aired. At first, it seemed like standard crisis protocol. No sudden moves, hold off on press, review everything. But then came the access cuts. We were told the systems were undergoing a routine reset, said one former social media contractor. Next thing I know, I couldn't access the brand calendar, email chains were gone, and my editor contact was just offline. Another insider, who worked with Meghan's PR liaison team remotely, described it as watching a digital exorcism in real time. Files disappeared. Shared drives were wiped. Multiple team Slack channels were deleted overnight, without warning. And the most chilling part? No one was told why. It felt like paranoia had taken over, said one anonymous source via voice note. Suddenly, everyone was being scrutinized. Who had reposted what? Who had screenshotted internal decks? Who had any connection to media blogs? It was like being in a palace, but the walls were glass, and you couldn't see who was watching. Some team members received vague notices about a shift in digital communication protocols. Others were locked out entirely, with one being told in a Zoom call that her services were no longer aligned with the brand's current posture. One person left quietly, no goodbye message, no farewell Zoom. Just a single sticky note left behind on her desk that read, You can't control the narrative if you don't trust the storytellers. Internally, the vibe shifted from collaborative to cold. Projects paused midway. Scheduled campaigns vanished from public feeds. Meghan's once-tight content strategy was suddenly full of holes. No planned podcast updates, no social content, no Netflix tie-ins. Staff began whispering about a rumored loyalty sweep. People were scared. Another ex-staffer revealed. There were rumors someone had leaked the Archewell brand board to a parody account. No one knew if it was true, but the fear was real. Every word, every post, every Slack emoji, people started watching their backs. The irony? These were the same people who had helped build the Meghan Markle brand, the resilience team, the redemption architects. The ones who fought the headlines, packaged the trauma, spun every setback into a strength. And now they were being iced out, or worse, accused. It's like the house caught fire, one person put it, and instead of putting it out, they started looking for arsonists in every room. Behind the curtain, this wasn't just a PR fallout anymore. It was brand cannibalism. And while Meghan herself remained silent, no tweets, no statements, no interviews, her silence only made the walls echo louder. The purge wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was surgical. Clean cuts. Quiet exits. No headlines. But the emotional wreckage? That lingered. Because, at its core, Archewell wasn't just a brand house. It was supposed to be safe space, a vehicle for compassion, impact, and storytelling. And now, it was just another place where good intentions went to die under the weight of reputation management. And just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral any further, the outside world started pulling back too. If the meltdown inside Archewell was the fire, the reactions outside were the smoke, spreading fast, seen by everyone, and impossible to contain. It started small. A quiet delay in an upcoming Archewell Foundation announcement. A subtle shift in Netflix's social strategy. One planned post promoting Meghan's documentary was quietly pulled. A Spotify sidebar carousel featuring archetypes disappeared without notice. At first, it looked like coincidence, until it kept happening. It wasn't that contracts were being canceled, said one industry insider with ties to both streaming platforms. It was that people stopped picking up the phone. Calls went to voicemail. Emails got short, then stopped altogether. No one wanted to be the first to say it out loud, that the Meghan brand had become radioactive. This wasn't about boycotts. It wasn't trolls. It wasn't even criticism. It was distance. A calculated, corporate kind of silence, the type brands use when they're waiting to see whether someone crashes or recovers before investing another dollar. Behind the scenes, every major deal Meghan and Harry had signed, from Netflix to Spotify to unannounced wellness collabs, had what insiders refer to as image clauses. There's always a section in contracts about brand safety, explained a former entertainment lawyer. If a partner becomes too controversial or their public perception shifts too negatively, that gives companies an exit route. Or, at the very least, a reason to pause future collaboration. And South Park? It didn't just generate bad press. It redefined public perception. Suddenly, Meghan wasn't just a misunderstood royal or a bold modern woman trying to reclaim her voice. She was a character, exaggerated, mocked, and memified into something unrecognizable. The viral response made it worse. Reaction videos hit millions of views. TikTok was flooded with mashups of the cartoon and actual interview footage. One meme comparing her Oprah interview to a puppet skit got 300,000 likes in 3 days. That level of ridicule makes brands nervous. Nobody wants their product advertised next to a public meltdown, a former Spotify creative strategist said, especially when the narrative is now being driven by satire instead of substance. Even royalty, it seems, isn't immune to market anxiety. Inside Buckingham Palace, no official statement was made, but sources close to royal correspondence claimed a private debrief took place with senior aides, analyzing how the episode might impact the monarchy's image by association. No action was taken, no response issued, but the silence from the palace? Intentional, measured, almost icy. Because when the institution that once gave you status now chooses to ignore you completely, it says more than any press release ever could. And that same energy was mirrored by sponsors. Some brands began pausing their campaign timelines. Others restructured deliverables to limit Meghan's visible presence. One tech startup in talks with Archewell to launch a well-being AI tool suddenly requested a full media silence clause, with no mention of Meghan's name in the promo. That was the moment we realized the shift was permanent, said a publicist involved in the now-canceled wellness partnership. They weren't just reacting to the episode. They were reacting to the culture shift it created. Behind closed doors, Meghan's team wasn't just battling trolls or bad headlines. They were battling irrelevance, the slow fade of corporate faith, the silent retreat of platforms that had once paid millions to be in her orbit. Because once perception changes, it doesn't need truth. It only needs time. And time was running out. The world waited for Meghan to speak. But what came next was nothing at all. When celebrities face public backlash, the usual pattern follows a script we've seen 100 times. A notes app apology, a polished Instagram reel, an exclusive sit-down with a friendly journalist, cue soft lighting, emotional music, the redemption arc. But Meghan Markle? She did none of that. In the weeks following the South Park storm, as Archewell froze and public support wavered, Meghan went dark. No Instagram updates, no podcast teasers, not even a paparazzi-style casual outing, the kind tabloids usually live for. It was radio silence, calculated or crumbling. That's the question that started flooding Reddit threads, gossip sites, and even marketing newsletters. Was this a power move, or proof she had lost control of the game? One theory suggests Meghan was simply regrouping, that behind the silence was a meticulous rebrand in progress, one designed to pivot her image away from victimhood and toward legacy. She's playing the long game. One former Vogue contributor speculated. Every time the noise gets too loud, she disappears. It's a reset tactic. The less she says, the more people project. And sometimes that projection is more powerful than explanation. But others saw something different. I think the silence wasn't part of the plan. A PR insider claimed anonymously. She didn't go quiet, she got quieted. Brand stepped back. Advisors pulled out. Archewell froze. What's left to say when your narrative machine isn't plugged in anymore? The theories spiraled fast. Some said Meghan was preparing a surprise launch, a new book, a wellness brand, even whispers of a lifestyle company to rival Goop. Others believed the silence signaled a retreat, not a reinvention. That Meghan was simply exhausted, emotionally, politically, professionally. That the woman who once declared she was finally free was now trapped by the very spotlight she once controlled. And then came the leaks. Quiet rumors, no confirmations, no denials, started circulating about team shakeups, strategy overhauls, even a possible full-scale exit from Archewell's current structure. If Meghan shows up next, one branding expert told Page 6, it won't be the same Meghan. That version, the podcasting docuseries headline battling version, is gone. What comes next will either be her evolution or her erasure. It's the kind of moment that defines more than a brand, it defines legacy. Do you speak? Or do you let the silence say everything? Some fans, especially on social media, praise the move. Why should she respond? One Twitter user posted, "She owes no one her voice. Let the haters choke on their own noise." But even her supporters began asking the same unshakable question. How long can you stay quiet before people stop listening altogether? Because in the court of public opinion, silence is a strange weapon. Sometimes it protects you. Other times, it buries you. And as the spotlight dimmed and headlines moved on to newer scandals, newer stars, newer narratives, one thing became terrifyingly clear. For the first time in years, Meghan Markle wasn't being talked about. She was being forgotten. 8. The quiet before the storm. When the world goes silent, it's not always peace. Sometimes, it's just the calm before something bigger. As Meghan's presence faded from timelines and headlines, something strange happened. The chatter didn't die, it mutated. Speculation turned into obsession. Fan theories got deeper. Critics became conspiracy hunters. And while Meghan said nothing, the world kept talking. But the narrative had shifted. It was no longer Meghan versus the crown. It was now Meghan versus herself. And the stakes had never been higher. Silence can work for a moment, said a media analyst on a BBC segment. But in celebrity culture, silence only works if you've already won the public sympathy. Meghan hadn't. She was still mid-trial in the court of opinion. What followed was a strange kind of stillness. No public appearances, no product launches, no Archewell updates, but insiders whispered about something brewing behind the scenes, something big. She's planning a narrative reset, claimed a former Netflix liaison. Not a podcast, not a documentary, something completely different. The tone is supposed to be softer, more mature, less reactive. According to reports, Meghan had begun working quietly with a new branding team, one described as global, female-led, and non-Hollywood. The goal? To reframe her story without rehashing the past. It wasn't about defending her choices anymore. It was about building a future so interesting people would forget the chaos that came before. But not everyone bought it. Skeptics argued that Meghan's silence was less about strategy and more about being boxed in. With trust eroded, brand value questioned, and public perception uncertain, what could she say that would matter? The risk of speaking now is huge, said a crisis PR veteran. One wrong tone, one defensive line, and she reactivates every critic in the system. So she stayed quiet. And for the first time, Meghan Markle, the woman who once captured the world by speaking her truth, became a symbol of strategic silence. But was it working? Or was it too late? Every story has a breaking moment, a scene that decides how history remembers you. Right now, Meghan stands on that edge. One misstep from total reputation collapse. One powerful move from complete reinvention. The industry is watching. Her critics are waiting. And her supporters? They're holding their breath. Because love her or hate her, one thing is clear. Meghan Markle still has the power to shift culture. The question is, will she? Recent trademark filings suggest something new is in motion. A wellness project, a digital content platform, even whispers of a documentary series focused not on Meghan herself, but on women across the world reclaiming their stories. If she does come back, one source hinted, it'll be through someone else's voice. She's moving from being the headline to being the publisher. Is that the redemption arc? Is that the final transformation from the target of public scrutiny to the curator of other people's truth? Or is it just another layer of image control? Another brand play wrapped in empowerment? No one knows. But one thing is certain. The next time Meghan Markle speaks, everyone will be listening. What happens when the storyteller loses control of her own story? Meghan came into the public eye as an actress. She rose as a duchess. She fought as a disruptor. And now, she waits. Some call it strength. Others call it fear. Some see a phoenix preparing for flight. Others just see the ashes. But here's the truth. Meghan Markle's story isn't over. It's paused. And that pause, filled with silence, strategy, and speculation, might be the most important chapter yet. Because legacies aren't built in noise. They're built in what comes after the noise fades. And right now, we're all just waiting to see what she does next. If you found this breakdown as intense and layered as we did, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next, because trust us, this story is far from over. Tap the like if you think Meghan's next move could be her boldest yet, and drop a comment below. Is her silence smart strategy or the beginning of the end? We'll be reading.